I felt that I need to speak up. I need to do something about this. And so I contacted the police in Aylmer, Ontario, where the abuse had taken place, and I mean other places. And they kind of said, well, okay, we'll see. And my mother had sent me a newspaper clipping that Father Harper had been charged in 1987. Some boys had come forward, both Aylmer but other places. He'd been brought up on 10 charges by 4 guys. They said, well, do you want to just be added on to as another one of the complainants? Or do you want to go further? And I said, no, I want to have more than just my name recorded. And so they said they had to consider it, and they got back to me within a week or so and said, okay, yes, we will go ahead with it. We've arrested him. And by this time he was 74, I think, living in London, Ontario, retired. And then the process started. And then I can't remember what phase of the trial it was, or the, not trial, but whatever, the legal process it was, but I went down there, and I was present in court, and I saw him there. It had been 50 years. About 50 years had gone by. 40 or 50, 40 years, I think, had gone by. And I didn't quite recognize him. Of course, he was much smaller than I had remembered. And he just looked at me and said hello. And I said hello. I called him John. That's his first name. I said hello, John. And I went into the courtroom. And he came in and he sat down behind me. Because it wasn't a sentencing hearing. It was the final sort of hearing before sentencing. And he sat down behind me. And I think, I've told people, I think in that, I was there only about a half an hour or so. In that half an hour, I probably went through 1,000 hours of therapy. Just the updating of, there he was, I'm much bigger than he is. And I'm not the child that I was. In the memories, I was the child. I was 8 years old, 9, 10, 11 years old. He was the big figure. And here it was the other way around. And he kept his head down, didn't say anything, but the fact that he sat right behind me. And then I turned and I just looked at him, and he kept his head down. And then whatever. My mother was with me, my older brother was with me. And that was it for that. And then I went down for the sentencing, and I did a victim impact statement. I spoke for 45 minutes and basically did my history and the effects it had on me and the effects it had on my family and my wife, and I don't have any children. Well, Sierra now. Yeah. And when I said, and he was there sitting in the front row, but with his attorney. And when I said, sometimes I still, I can still smell him. And he laughed. He snickered. And I thought, you don't get it at all. You just don't. He has no remorse. To him, it wasn't wrong. His story was that what he was doing, he was educating me in sexuality. And that's all he wanted to do. There was no sense of abuse or anything like that. And one of the things I said that in my victim impact statement is until there is some response from the priest to me, I cannot forgive him. And until there is some response from the church to me, I cannot forgive. I cannot reach forgiveness, because he was transferred from Aylmer to another parish because of complaint about sexual abuse. He was transferred from that parish to the seminary because of a complaint about sexual abuse. He tried to bring some of his victims into the seminary, and he got some of them in there and continued to abuse them. And the church was aware of this, did nothing about it. So I said until that happens, that I cannot be forgiven. And then a year later, a litigation lawyer came to visit me from London, Ontario, and they had successfully sued the church for another priest and a group of boys. And so they came and talked to me and said, are you interested in suing? And it would be on a contingency basis. They take 1/3, I get 2/3. And I thought about it, and I said yes. And then that process started. And then went down in May of 2006, and for settlement, out of court settlement. It was getting close to trial, and we settled 1 million. Highest settlement in Canada for a suit. That was exceeded shortly thereafter for good reason. Yeah. Came back home, bought this house, bought another house, an old farmhouse, which would have been a sort of vacation retirement home outside of Kingston. Settled my debts, which had really increased because of all the time I was spending with the lawyers, and bought a used car, and took a good chunk of money and gave it to one of my sisters who was sexually abused, and another woman who was abused, and three women that had been abused. So I said, I've got some money here. This will help.